just a fashion statement.
Lately I ain't sleeping much, I'm staying up at night, wondering if all the choices that I make are right. A lot of people doing music for a piece of pie, but all I ever really wanted was some
What's
peace
up,
of mind.
everybody?
So
Welcome
here's a
back to the
piece of
Serje
mind. Come
podcast.
inside my
Once
life.
again, shout
I
out to
hold
Sean
the door
Stacks
open
for letting
you
us
come
use his
step
music
inside.
on our
Get inside
intro.
for the smoke,
Without
I'm
further ado, our guest for this week is going to be Coach Cook.
How's it going, man? It's good to see you.
What's up, Coach? Thanks for coming out. I really appreciate it. For those of you all that don't know, Coach Cook has been my coach for the last year and a half. I wrestled at Wayland Baptist University, and he was pretty much the one that did give me the opportunity to wrestle out here after only wrestling in high school for a year in the state of Texas, you know. Like he already knows, I truly appreciate it. Today's topic is going to be coaching, relationships that you built through that, all that kind of stuff. Coach, why don't you start with just telling us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, I appreciate you having me on, and I think that we've built a really good relationship over the last couple of years, and we brought you in here for a reason, and I think that really led to a lot of good things between me and you. So, but just kind of my backstory. I grew up in Indiana. Shout out to Eville, A12, Rice High School, HBC, all of them. But yeah,
HBC, is that the alternative high school over there?
no, so I grew up in Howe Park. Howe Park Click was HBC. So,
Okay.
But yeah, so I lived in Indiana for through high school. I had a long road. I went to University of Dubuque in Iowa as a freshman in college. I had family things going on, so I moved back to Indiana after that. Spent about 6 years in Indiana, and then finished school in Iowa. So it's been a long journey getting around here, but I think it's led me to be in a great place and do great things.
That's awesome. So when you went back home from Dubuque, by the way, if y'all don't know, he has a lot of stories about Dubuque. That's how most of his stories started. But when you left Dubuque for the first time, did you stop going to school, or what happened in that process of, or part of your life where you left and then went back?
Yeah. So basically, when I left, I'd moved home to go to University of Southern Indiana, which is in my hometown, Evansville. And when I first moved there, they didn't have wrestling at all. So that was kind of a tough point in my life, trying to get away from the thing that I love the most, and so didn't do well academically. Like, just didn't have a lot of direction. But kind of got by. They actually added wrestling as a club, and so I was able to continue to compete. And so in that process, I was doing a little better academically, but not where I needed to be, not what I was capable of. After I finished my last year wrestling there, I decided that I didn't want to do school anymore. I kind of just wasn't being successful enough, to my standards. So kind of plan was to get in the workforce, and ended up getting an opportunity to play semi-pro football, and kind of did that while I worked jobs for 3 years. And working those crappy jobs, I realized that the college degree was something that was something that I needed to be successful the way that I wanted to be. In that process, I decided the best place to go was head back to one time in Dubuque, and so I was really good connections there, and kind of opened the doors to start my college coaching career.
That's sweet. I know while you were up there in Dubuque, I don't know if it's the first time, but I'm for sure the second time you did work, your work study job, quote unquote, up there was just making the recruit calls, all that kind of stuff. So through there, was that kind of like your stepping stone into recruiting and learning how to all that good stuff?
Yeah, so work study job, that was when I returned when I was older. And so even as I finished my competition career, and then as I got into my coaching career there, my work study job was to make recruiting phone calls. And, still to this day, I use it on my resume. I led the Spartan recruiters in calls and contacts. And so, it's something that I'm proud of. But, with anything that we do, like, it's about getting reps, right? Like, right. You can't just, hit a double A once and think that you're good at it. You got to mess up quite a few times. And so, those early days, I think that's a little bit what I was doing. It was a first contact, so, and they were all cold calls. Like, none of these people knew I was calling. It's, nothing really like I'm doing now. just calling random people throughout the country. Hey, do you want to come to Dubuque? So I try to tell them about all the stories, but they weren't hearing it. But it was, it was a good experience and kind of, like great resume builder. It, kind of led me to being a good recruiter, I think.
Sweet. So I really like how Dubuque gave you that opportunity. I know you guys give that opportunity for the wrestlers who do stay here. I know Mitch has been here a while, helping out the program, all that kind of stuff, even after he was done with his wrestling career. So it's a tight-knit community family. We treat each other like family, which is kind of the awesome thing about wrestling. There's not a lot here in the United States. In parentheses, you can put that in parentheses, because it depends where you're at. But mostly here in the South, the community is so tight because there's just so few people like that. So once you left Dubuque, what happened after that? You just came straight down to Wayland, or what happened in between there and here?
So I graduated December 2013. After that, just kind of fulfilled my coaching duties there at Dubuque and started looking for jobs. And so, right away I had kind of had a few offers as like a GA, and it's a struggle when you first get into college coaching. You're not, it's not what you think. You think you graduate college and you're going to not have to worry about money anymore. And, you're going to be able to work these great jobs, and it is a great job, but the money part's not so much. So
you pretty much do this because this is what you love to do and you're passionate about,
For sure. And, I think that's, you got to grind out. And I think if you look at any top job, like, you're going to have to take unpaid internships. You're going to have to take crappy jobs in the beginning if you want to do what you want to do, because whatever field it is that you want to do, there's probably a lot of people that want to do it. And so, you kind of have to sift through those people that aren't able to sacrifice for a few years. So anyways, I got the job at Manchester University up in northern Indiana, and so starting out, it was $12,500 a year, and I lived in a dorm room. They gave me a dorm room and a meal plan for free. So like I said, it was a grind and a lot of work, but made some awesome relationships and developed connections through there. I think did a lot to improve the program, and they're flourishing right now, and so I think that's what a lot of these jobs are about, is leaving it in a better place than you came in.
I really like how I can see personally, since I'm here next to you talking to you, I see the passion in your eyes whenever you talk about this. You love what you do, therefore you take that $12,500 a year. Something that you could probably make more of if you went to work, like, let's say a McDonald's, a McDonald's or like the distribution center or something like that, But before we go any further to my next question, I want to ask, why not the high school route? I'm pretty sure that would pay a little bit more. You have your degree, all that kind of stuff. Why not go? Okay, I have my degree. I have a little bit of background in recruiting and coaching. Why didn't you go to high school?
And so actually I was a high school coach for 6 years when I was living in Evansville, and that gap between the two Dubuque stints. And so and had an awesome time there. We did some great things at Wright High School. I think we were top 10 in the nation, or top 10 in the state 4 years in a row, and the year after I left too. And so we had maybe 3 Division I kids, a couple kids went D2, a couple kids went JUCO. So we did a ton, and before that stint, I think I was the first one to go and wrestle from my high school in I think 15, 20 years. So like really made great strides in that time. And I think, not that, I loved that time, and I made some great relationships, guys that I still am really good friends with today, and still go to their weddings and all that stuff. But for me, I relate better to adults and college age guys and athletes. And so I think that, and I enjoy the recruiting process too, where you're in high school, you're a high school coach, you basically, you have them for a couple hours at practice, and you're outside of that, maybe watching a little film, but there's not a lot of other work you can do. Like for me, I want my life to be about wrestling. And so, I work 12, 14-hour days now. And so like in that process, like it's all wrestling stuff and all wrestling and relationships with the athletes. And so, For me, that it's a much better fit.
All right, sweet. I like the honesty. I like the honesty that you give from it, you know. So thanks for sharing that. Moving on to the next point that I have. How about you tell us a little bit about how the coaching has affected you personally? Before we talk about how you can affect, the athletes and all that kind of stuff, how has this job, this position of influence has affected you and your life personally,
And I think the biggest thing is that it holds me to a high standard, and so I can't really be a dirtbag if I want you guys to follow in my footsteps and act in that way. Like, one of my best ways of teaching is just kind of by example and how I treat people, and hopefully you guys pick up on that stuff and you guys tend to follow in that direction. And so I think coaching's done a lot for me, and so I try to kind of pay that forward to the athletes and try to affect their lives in a positive way, as much like the coaches that I've coached with, they coach and they coached me. They changed my life in that way.
Yeah, and I like how you touched up the point about teaching by example. I know it was this year whenever we started preseason, and it was, I think, the third time of us running our time mile, and everyone was dragging because we knew it was Tuesday and we knew we had to run the mile, and we were all bummed because we don't want to do that. We want to get on the mats, but I remember you ran it with us and you kind of killed a lot of people. I know you beat me by like 5-10 seconds. I was pissed because I was actually winning the whole time and you came out of nowhere. I had this guy up for 2 laps. I had him behind me. I let him sprint the first 2 because I was like, he's going to gas out. I can already see it. He kind of did, and then just the second wind came out of nowhere and just beat me by like 75 meters. So I can testify to the fact that you do teach by example, Now, from the personal aspect of things to the athlete aspect of things, what have been some of the hardships you've gone through with athletes? What have been some of the toughest things in your field of coaching,
Honestly, some of the toughest things is just kind of letting them learn on their own, I mean, and we've had those conversations a lot, and, sure that, you and other athletes, like, oh, this is what I think may be best for your future. But at the end of the day, like, if you're not passionate about it, whatever that road is, or if whoever I'm talking to is not passionate about it, it's not gonna affect their life the way that it could. And so, instead of talking from experience or whatever, like, I just have to sit back and kind of learn with you and kind of let you make mistakes or whatever, even though, and I think all coaches and parents go through that. You want to be like, hey, do this because I've been through it. I know this is right. But like, at the end of the day, it's about passion. And one of the things that I say the most is do what you're passionate about, because you're going to be much better at it if you are passionate about it.
Right. I know we've had our fair shares of helping myself out and not listening. My freshman year, you were trying to help me out managing my weight. And I was like, no, don't worry about it. I'm going to do it my way. I got it. And then I ended up breaking out into like a huge stress rash all over my body. It was hilarious. We had a good laugh. And my parents talked to him and they were just like concerned. But the thing that they don't understand about the sport is like, it's part of it, being able to manage your weight correctly. And then I just told him, I was honest with him. I was like, yeah, I should have listened to this guy. And all the hair he doesn't have in his head is from the experience that, he gained from it. But so, okay, we've hit up the how you affect the athletes, the hardships of it. Now, what do you learn from your athletes, whether it be present, past, or future things you want to maybe put into your coaching style that lets you know what you learn from them,
And I think that's one of those things that varies based on each athlete, like, so for you, like I've learned a lot from the way that you communicate with people and socialize, even when you're going through your roughest times, you always treat people positively and you're not afraid to talk to people. And a lot of times when we get down the dumps, we want to keep to ourselves. And I never saw that from you, that's not something that's very common. And so, it's just throughout my career, I meet different people and like every situation is different. That's the thing. Like it can't just be, for me, it's not a black and white answer. It's like, oh yeah, from this guy I learned that, and other guys it's maybe the way they look at technique or whatever. Like there's things to be learned from every situation. We just have to be open minded in those situations to be able to learn them.
Yeah, I remember whenever I think it was even before I came up as a freshman that you had met one of my friends, and when you mentioned me, they were like, "Yeah, that guy's always positive for some reason." But you know what? At the end of the day, my high school coach always looked at things positively. Shout out to Coach Hunger. We have one of these set up. Hopefully, we'll do it soon. But I remember one time I lost. I lost my first championship match that I was ever in for a tournament, and he was pissed. Like he walked with me from the mat to the locker room, kind of like just getting on me about why I lost. And then those 15 seconds, after those 15 seconds, he was just like, do you understand like why I'm so passionate and I'm telling you this, so I can completely learn from him. I'll get mad or something and then be like, and then take a deep breath and just tell myself, okay, now I learned from it. What am I going to do moving forward?
Yeah.
So
I think as a coach like that's something I try to do. Once they see your passion, it's so much easier to teach and it's so much easier for you to learn, and so at times, I have very like laid back personality. And so I can see where sometimes my passion doesn't come through. And so that's really, as a coach, that's one of the things that I'm working to do is just not just, I know I have the passion inside me. Everyone knows that, but being able to show it, have a little fire, and then man, like the ability for the athletes to learn from that. The reason that you still remember that today is because Coach Conger was passionate in that moment. And so that's one thing that, anyone that's getting into a leadership position can take from that. We had a quote in our office is they don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And then, that kind of goes back to that, once they know you're passionate, once they know you care, then you're able to teach them. Before that, a lot of people are going to be closed off to it.
Yeah, close-minded, and I think that's something that I struggled with in my previous sports that I played because my coaches were passionate, but at the same time, football, and I mean, I was all right at football. So when it comes down to basketball, I saw the passion in my coaches, but I wasn't 6 foot, I wasn't 6'2", the perfect shooting guard or any of that kind of stuff. But when it came down to wrestling, like I didn't need to be any certain way, I just needed to work hard and want to work harder than my opponent and all that kind of stuff. So with combat sports, I think you just see that a lot, and hopefully coaches from the outside as in from other sports that aren't combat sports look at it. I mean, football coaches say they love recruiting from wrestlers, just because of the fact that they understand all that passion that it takes. It's only you and another person out there. You have your corner coaches, but they can only help you so much, But I see where you can see that there's a difference in the passion that you show there.
Yeah. So, growing up, I was way better at every other sport besides wrestling. I think I was an okay football player, and I was probably born to be a baseball player. Both of my older brothers played good college baseball, and that was all the only sport that they did. And so I went to a ton of baseball games growing up and watched Cardinals games every night. And so I was probably born to be a baseball player. I was good at football. I had okay basketball, stuff like that. But it was like, man, I was just drawn in by wrestling because the work that you put in is automatic. You see the results from the work you put in. Like I could put as much work as I want in football, but I was still going to be a 5'10" white guy that so it's not gonna I'm not gonna be able to make the NFL based on that. And so same thing with basketball. Like, I was never going to be able to compete with those D1 athletes at my size. But, in wrestling, I put in the work and then I'd see results, and it's so fulfilling to grind through a 10-pound practice or whatever it is. And then in the way that makes you feel, the self-confidence that gives you is really just unparalleled in other sports.
Exactly. And a lot of people are able to see it that are in the community. And then the people outside of it sometimes just don't understand us, friends from other sports and all that kind of stuff. Like they will never understand it until they truly try it themselves. I remember there was a guy in our high school. He was kind of a bully, you know, if we're going to be honest, but we invited him out to one of our practices, and it was a light practice. There wasn't anything wrong with it, you know. In that practice, actually, we jogged more laps than I think any other practice just because he was dying. So, but wrestling breaks down the baddest guy you think you know. So at the end of the day, I've learned a lot from it. I've learned a lot from you, and I really appreciate it all. You know, I really appreciate all the coaching staff at Wayland Baptist University. But to end the podcast, right, just kind of like I always ask everybody, from your perspective of a coach and a person of influence, you know, what would your message be to the coaches out there who kind of need to listen and just make a better relationship with their athletes, kind of step back for a second and maybe think about that and how they can improve as a coach, as a mentor, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing that's going on in the wrestling world and the coaching world is you know, kind of moving on from the old school mentality of, you know, you just got to beat people down and they'll figure it out. You know, I just think with kind of this age of athletes, it doesn't work very well. And for me, you know, the common thought is, oh, I'm the coach, I'm the superior. You know, for me, that doesn't work. I think that we have to treat as equals and mutual respect. And, you know, like we talked about before, showing that you care. But, you know, at the same time, you still have to hold them to a high standard. You know, so, you know, there's a fine line in there of you know, letting them be themselves, but also showing them the right way, right? So, you know, there's a lot of different coaching philosophies. I think that, you know, the best, most successful ones are able to combine all of them into one, right? You know, we were talking earlier about my older brother, and over Christmas I was talking to him, and there's this college that they went to play baseball at, University of Southern Indiana. Their baseball coach back then, it was kind of like a 500 program, pretty mediocre. The coach they've had the last 10 years has been to the College World Series 5 times, won 3 national championships, and so they, you know, and through the alumni golf outing, he kind of talked about. My brother playing golf with him was asking him like, "Oh, what's your coaching philosophy?" and stuff like that. And he's like, honestly, I'm not very good at the X's and O's. He's like, at the end of the day, like, I'm a good dude that people want to play hard for. And, you know, I think I kind of follow that model a little bit too. And you know, there's, I think they do a good job with technique and stuff like that. But at the same time, like,